Now for global business updates, Rotus Odiri joins us. Good morning, Rotus.
Good morning, Doctor. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning to all our viewers out there. Begin with, it's mostly technology I think I'm going to be talking about today. Sam Altman, according to the Wall Street Journal, he's looking to raise a just mind-boggling 5 to 7 trillion. That's trillion with a T. To build AI chip production outlets. He visited Korea. He's trying to talk to the UAE. And they were just comparing the numbers of what he's trying to do here. If you look at global chip sales for 2023, it's 527 billion. So it's not even up to a trillion. They're estimating it'll get to 1 trillion by 2030. Then the equipment, the semiconductor equipment that was used to make these chips only topped like $100 billion in 2023. Then if you look at the US corporate debt issuance for 2023, it topped out at 1.4 trillion. And then you add the market cap of Microsoft and Apple, you're getting about $6 trillion. So it's how he gets this done. If he gets this done, that would be incredible, but we'll have to see how that works. We move to Google. Google has collapsed all its AI projects into Gemini. Gemini, we talked about it when it was announced at one of their shows in California. So Bard is now that's the chatbot Bard, which was supposed to compete with ChatGPT and so on, has now been renamed Gemini. There's a dedicated Gemini app for Android. There is no app yet for iOS at this point, because Apple has Siri. Then the workspace tools for Excel, Office, and all these other things that work with all these other Google Workspace. Also, that the Duet AI, that also has been now renamed as Gemini. So Gemini is across the board being used now. There is a premium version, Ultra 1.0, which will go for retail for about a monthly subscription will be about $20 a month, but they are going head on to compete with ChatGPT. So the AI race just continues. And speaking of which, ARM, which is the chip designer, which of course, ARM's business model, they're a UK company, of course, went public IPO in September of last year. SoftBank owns about 90% of the company. Their earnings beat Wall Street estimates were released yesterday. The stock climbed 48%. I mean, market cap, think about this. The market cap they added yesterday was $38 billion. That's adding, let me not compare. $38 billion was added in market cap. 65 billion valuation at their IPO, which is their initial public offering, swelling to 117 billion as at yesterday. Of course, SoftBank owns 90%. Here is their CEO, Rene Haas. He was speaking to, I think, Bloomberg about, if we go look at SoftBank earnings, of course, since they own 90% of the company, they, of course, reported, that's the Vision Fund, which is very tech heavy, reported their performance. You can see their net sales, gain on investment, net income doing very well. So Rene Haas, the CEO of ARM, I keep saying ARM, it's actually ARM Holdings PLC. Here he is talking about how artificial intelligence has driven the company's earnings.
Folks, as you said, didn't really understand the company well and where we fit. And obviously we had a lot of growth attached to the smartphone market, but ARM is in a lot of devices that people may not naturally think about. We're in a Tesla vehicle, we're in a Ford F-150, we're in a Ring smart camera. We're in a Samsung TV, a Samsung smart appliance. So just about every device you can think of has ARM inside, and just about every device you can think of needs more and more compute, particularly as AI is now driving a whole new demand cycle. Well, right now, NVIDIA is a great partner. Their Grace Hopper chip, a super chip, uses a lot of ARM CPUs in combination with their GPU, which is a really, really great solution for high-end AI training in the data center, as well as inference. But when you start moving to smaller devices, say smartphones or PCs, well, AI is going to run there too. If you look at some of the recent announcements by Samsung and Google relative to their smartphones, there's a lot of things such as circling an image on a browser and then having that browser go off and do search based on the circle. That's AI. That's actually running in a smartphone. And what we're seeing is really a drive for more and more compute capacity to run these AI algorithms, some that people don't even know what they are yet. But what designers want to do and need to do is future-proof their designs with more and more compute. And that is really driving a strong licensing cycle for us in terms of more demand.
All right, so I mean, if you just think about the future and where things are going, all the things he was mentioning, vehicles, phones, refrigerators, televisions, the chip game is just going to get incredibly huge going forward. Invest in semiconductor companies and thank me later over the long haul. We're going to, I think we're coming to Africa now. There's a company, a Ghana fintech called Remotelli. Since there's a big football match, in fact, happening this weekend, they have partnered with a company called Pathways, and they've raised a fund for tech skills for football athletes, aspiring football athletes. So what they want to do is to give a backup to football players in case the football career doesn't work out. They're saying, here is a fund, we will train you in technology, you can have a set of skills in case you get injured and you can't play again, or you don't get picked by your favorite club and your football career doesn't work out, you can fall back on technology skills so you can have a job, put food on the table, and feed your family. So Remotelli is a fintech in Ghana who didn't make it past the group stage of the Nations Cup. Ethiopia, they have decided to ban fossil fuel cars. This was announced in Parliament by their Minister of Trade, Transport and Logistics. They didn't give a timeline as to when this ban will take place, but the minister really emphasized that Ethiopia wants to go really hard on charging infrastructure. He said to the effect that the cost of foreign exchange importing fossil fuel cars is really high. Although, I mean, is he trying to say that Ethiopia is going to manufacture electric vehicles? Because if you're importing electric vehicles, you're still spending about the same amount. But he did talk about the cheaper cars coming from China. So you can imagine China will be looking over to Ethiopia as a market where they can export their vehicles. We come to Nigeria, again, investing. There was a massive treasury bill auction on the 7th, just day before yesterday. If you look to the right of your screen, we've got three tenors, your 91-day, 182, 364. Look at the amount that was offered. It was 1 trillion naira across three tenors. So 200 billion for the 91-day, another 200 billion for the 182, 600 million for the 364. Look at the subscription. The subscription tells you the appetite and demand for those treasury bills. It was 3x for the 364 days. So 1.86 trillion is what was demanded. Of course, the allotment didn't really reach that high. Now, if you look at the prior stop rates, 5% for the 91-day ended up being 7. If that was the prior one, but for the auction on the 7th, it ended up being 17.24. Look at the 182, 7.15 was the previous, it was now 18%, 11.54 for the 364 was 19%. The same CBN is making it's making good on its promise to suck out liquidity for the system, also trying to compensate investors with higher yields for these bills. So as I've told people a lot of times, diversify your portfolio, look at stocks, look at treasury bills. In fact, this isn't just a little math here. If you take the 19%, what the yield that's being quoted is not the true yield. Just a quick calculation on your true yield, which is actually higher than what is offered there. If you take the 364-day bill at 19%, and assuming you invest $1 million naira, your yield is 190,000. Of course, 19% of your 1 million. Now, what happens is your interest is paid upfront for your treasury bill. So what will happen is they will leave that 190,000 in your account and deduct 810,000, which is the difference between 190,000 and 1 million. So to calculate the true yield, since it's being offered at a discount, you would take 190 and divide by 810, right? And your true yield ends up being 23.46%. So, again and again, encourage folks that listen, we're on a yield trajectory here where at the next MPC meeting, it is expected that the benchmark interest rate will be increased by 500 basis points, maybe 250 or so, from 18.75%. If that happens, yields will continue to go up. In fact, the stock market fell yesterday because equity investors possibly could have been tempted by what they're seeing in the money market space. Bonds for Nigeria will be going. In fact, there was an interesting article in Bloomberg that was comparing Euro bonds for Nigeria versus South Africa. Nigeria's Euro bonds outperforming South Africa's head and shoulders. This was before we beat them at the Nations Cup. So I've told people several times, look at Nigerian stocks, look at Nigerian money markets, bonds, those yields are looking to go up. And then speaking of sports, I think we'll round up with that since we've got two massive games taking place this weekend. The AFCON prize money has been increased by 40%. So the winner, which will likely be Nigeria, hopefully be Nigeria, $7 million. Runner-up, which will hopefully be Ivory Coast, will get $4 million. Then your semi-finalists, of course, where South Africa falls in 2.5, and your quarterfinalists 1.3. And then the Super Bowl, let's not forget, the really huge NFL game is going on Super Bowl Sunday between the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe because of the Taylor Swift premium, because she's dating one of the Kansas City Chiefs football players, the average ticket price for Super Bowl 58 is $9,800. And this was according to TakePick, 70% year-on-year climb. So big weekend for sports, big weekend looking ahead. That's our update for today.
It's the Taylor Swift economy once again.
Indeed.
Anywhere Taylor Swift goes, the economy goes up. And that's the amazing thing about the star power she brings in there. I mean, we'll see how the Super Bowl will go. But one also thing we don't even talk enough about the Super Bowl in this part of the world is the potential for advertising revenue.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, half a minute advert in the Super Bowl a couple of years ago used to go for as much as $3.6 million.
Probably higher
per
now.
slot.
Yeah.
But today, I'm sure it's way higher. I don't know the one for the year. About 60-second advert used to go over $6 million per slot.
Right.
And it is estimated by over 100 million people will definitely see that advert when it goes out. And I mean, companies live for the Super Bowl adverts in America. I mean, you want to put your best foot forward. And your Super Bowl halftime performance as a musician can resuscitate your dead career that has been dead for years. And that's the power of the Super Bowl. If only we can have a sport like that can harness things in Nigeria. We used to have it before. You know, there's something called the Coca-Cola Challenge Cup back in the days. It used to be very big on television in Nigeria in the 90s. I mean, but we all know what happened. We did not continue to invest in the league. We did not continue to reproduce a lot of new players on the local scene. And this morning, I'd like to celebrate the efforts of some people that worked so hard as regards even growing sports in Nigeria. We don't thank him enough. There's a Scotsman called Ian Nelson. I think he was head of Pepsi then. He was instrumental to the Pepsi Academy and coach Kashima Wulaluko, you know. A lot was done for that league at that point in time, but we've not been able to harness the monetary part. The way forward is technology. I'm not surprised that NVIDIA and the likes are moving. The silicon semiconductor market, they're moving. In fact, you remember the very popular song Gangnam Style?
Yes, that did a billion views on YouTube.
So the song was about a tribute to the Gangnam district in Korea, where some of the rich people, semiconductor entrepreneurs, will normally live in Korea. So it just shows you that even as a then, and size Gangnam Style is close to like 10 years ago, even as a then, if you had a lot of people doing well in the semiconductor industry, and when the world is going AI now, you can only see what will happen.
It's the future.
I mean, and that's why, yeah, it might be out of reach what you think,
Sam Altman
wants to do.
Yeah.
But it's possible he could well do it, because when you look at the trajectory of the world, then every company is going AI. Look at what ARM was saying. Ford F-150, everything is there. Almost every cars, they're motorized, they're digitized. Look at the new Samsung phone they came to advertise here on this dial that, you can just, circle stuff. AI is everywhere. The capacity of the Internet of Things, so it can only get better from there. But the question is, where is Nigeria in all of this risk? We have the capacity to be able to do AI. We have the capacity to be able to do the algorithm. That's why I've always suggested, across 774 local government areas, tech hubs are needed. Government used to have one that I served on at a point in time called Idea Hub. I used to be a mentor on government set up Idea Hub then, with Elin and Article then. But I don't know where it is today. That was under Jonathan administration.
Dr. Bosun Tijani is trying to push forward with that. So he's doing the work. He's doing the work.
Okay, the treasury yield auction. We were told on Wednesday that the central bank was looking at an auction of about 1 trillion naira. And that the whole idea is, again, to manage inflation by mopping up excess liquidity. And that the one that was well subscribed was the 364-day, option that was given. But you were talking about, okay, this is almost the conclusion by other persons, that this is definite evidence that in the next MPC meeting, the MPC is going to raise benchmark rates. But the question is, to what extent? Is Bloomberg that is recommending 500 basis points. Nairametrics was saying between 100 and 300 basis points. But what is clear that all the insiders and the economists are saying is that, look, rates will go up, but to what level will they go up? You are talking about people investing, buying treasury yields, but how about the long-term effect in terms of whether the CBN succeeds, in curbing inflation and mopping up excess liquidity? That's the question there. But there was a question I've been keeping for you, and it has to do with this issue of food prices generally. Yesterday, I think we discussed it when Femi Falana SAN was able to secure a judgment at the Federal High Court in Lagos for the enforcement of the Price Control Act of 2004. He had approached the court to say, look, the Price Control Board, is it performing its duties or is it not? The case was filed May 2023. But the two respondents, the Price Control Board and the Attorney General of the Federation, they did not react. So, the Court of Justice Luis Alagoa, found in favor of the petitioner and said, look, your prayers have been granted by the court. As of this morning, I don't know what the reaction of the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation is, whether, that office is going to go on appeal. But there is an economic question here. Now, the law exists, the Price Control Act. The first schedule lists a number of items over which government can fix prices. Now, fixing prices means to avoid speculation, to avoid arbitrary charges in the market. But is it practicable? Can it be enforced? Take, for example, the woman that is selling a finger of banana for previously at 200 naira, who is now selling it at 1,500. How do you stop that woman from selling banana to me at 1,500 naira?
Bless you, sir.
Do we have a price control board that has the mechanism to do this? Because I brought the question before you. Because in Niger State yesterday, somebody in the House of Assembly has said, let Niger State also set up his own price control board so that the state government in Niger can start fixing prices. So how can they fix the price of banana, or how much they should sell a bowl of pepper soup?
I am a free market capitalist. When you control prices, you have to, as you've perfectly illustrated, Doctor, what about the players in the sector that are selling? What about their costs to either grow or acquire? If I bring up Mr. Ifini again and his plantain farm, what about the cost of the people to acquire these items? Price controls do not work. Waziri Adio, who of course is our columnist at This Day Nigeria Newspaper Record, he wrote an article which we put up here. He said, at least for now, suspend the tariffs on wheat, sugar, rice, and so on, in order to at least try to alleviate the issue, the food price issue that we're having right now. But fuel subsidies for the players in the field, look, there's fuel lines rising up again. NNPC put out a notice saying, oh, there's going to be enough fuel. The players in the sector are being impacted by price caps. The electricity subsidies, the reason why our value chain is in an issue, the electricity subsidies are capping the profits for the players in the sector. Now this issue with food. Price controls don't work, Doctor. I mean, if an emergency, remove the tariffs, try and bring in, try and flood the market with more food. President Tinubu has come out saying he wants to release more grains and stuff, but I am not a fan of price controls.
I mean, with all due respect, I think the truth is it doesn't work, price control. And I think I celebrate and I respect Mr. Femi Falana, but it's just going to be an exercise in futility. Number one will be, I subscribe to the emergency, removal of tariffs and things like that. We did it during Yaradua's time when we had the slump. Secondly, Dr. Abati, you remember the days of essential commodities? That's what we tried. Esenko. It never worked. You remember when the military was going to markets in the early 80s in Lagos and telling television salesmen, don't sell your television at this price. It's just for a while. It never worked. Essential commodity never worked. So we've tried it in this country. It did not work.
But in any case, Mr. Falano's point is testing the law. Saying this is the law. If the law is no longer useful, repeal it. But if the law is there, can you enforce it?
Exactly.
That's the point. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.